Hi and welcome to the channel. Today I want to share with you all my Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks deck. I will go over card choices. We will show some cool lines that you can pull off and have a lot of fun with this very impressive hero, to be honest. In case you don't know what I'm doing here, I record gameplay videos in order to get better. I try to upload very frequently. I have 100 games in the other playlist for Arakni Marionette. You see all the ups and downs of learning that hero. And now I'm moved on to Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks. And quite honestly, I have a lot of fun. So in the middle of July, we are in High Seas meta. Gravy Bones has been released. The Necromancer class has surfaced and we all have to work around it. How do we deal with another ally-based board state hero? And quite honestly, it's been a lot of fun playing. So come with me and we'll look at why you should play this deck and how you can perform well at your next event. So thanks for joining. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. If you're not subscribed yet, I appreciate all of the support I can get. And thanks for watching. Why would you play this deck? Let's look at the hero real quick. Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks. The first attack with stealth, each turn gets go again. Wow, that sounds really good. But be aware, this is a static ability and it also counts for your opponent's turn and their first stealth attack. Go again is a really powerful keyword, especially in Assassins. We long time have been suffering under the lack of action points and or go again in our decks. And now we have a hero that has it printed on the hero card. So we need to live with the 38 life that he has and not the full 40, but I think it's well worth it because it's a lot of fun. Game plan wise, we can be really flexible. We can play aggressive, we can go wide, we can go tall with attack reactions. We apply disruptive on-hit effects. Again, with attack reactions, we can pump these through. We can also take it back and pivot to defending. We have D-reacts to our exposal. Most of all, if not all, our cards block for 3. Assassin has a lot of 3 blocks. And because of that, we are a really flexible deck, and currently we are well positioned in the current meta game. If we look at the Gravy Bones matchup, this is a slightly favored matchup, as well as the Syndra matchup, which is also slightly favored. And we also have game in all the other heroes. So let's look at the deck and the card choices. You will see we built the deck to have synergies between the stealth attacks and attack reactions. We have a little dagger package as well to capitalize on Graphene Chelicera, the superior dagger. And we have a defensive package as well to cover up all the points that I mentioned before. Let's now look at all the cards and go through them one by one. Our deck has 30 reds, 6 yellows and 12 blues of what I consider the main deck. That's 48 cards, and that means we need to add 12 cards to have 60 playables, and these 12 we select on matchup. Right? Let's go over first our equipment loadout. So we will play Black Tech Whisperers as a default. It blocks for 1. We value blocking 1 higher than unconditional go again in this deck because of our hero ability. The go again isn't as needed, I think. Black Tech also has the ability of being a starts in play, stays in play, attack reaction, so we can enable Bonds of Agony easier. We could buy back with 2 silvers. We could buy back the Black Tech Whisperers. I gotta say, I don't pull this off very often, and I would say this is not the main reason we play this card. Crown of Providence. As far as my testing goes, I think this is the premier headpiece for Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks. It blocks for 2, it clears an arsenal in case we get under pressure from Command and Conquer or from Conqueror of the High Seas. We can put Crown. Once a game, we get a card in our hand. Alternatively, we can also use it to more progressively and proactively filter our hand and our arsenal. It's really good bailout. It's also a 2-block. We don't have so much block on equipment, so this could be really, really good, for example, against the Prism, dealing with an Herald of Erudition, for example, blocking 2 with the head and 3 from hand, hoping that they don't have the pump. Flick Knives, I think, is undebatable and uncontested in this deck. There's no other arms piece. We play Tunic as the main piece for the chest. We get a resource every 3 turns. Usually the games last at least 6 turns, so we might get 2 resources out of it if we use them efficiently. In my experience, we don't play super efficiently and use Tunic immediately if we can, but it's good to have it available, because plays like taking the resource from Tunic to activate Chelicera to come in for no cards pitched is really powerful. Chelicera already has Go Again, which is really good, or the standard Codex into CNC plays where we need the Tunic counter. We also play 2 Hunter's Claves, and no, I don't play more than 2. I have seen the tech, I haven't played around with it, so I'm sticking with my regular 2 Claves. Claves are precious, so we want to be mindful on where to flick and what to enable with the flick. Alright, let's dive through our 48 deck cards that I consider main board. Let's maybe start with the blues. All of the blues here, Bonds of Agony, Bonds of Attraction, Double Trouble and Persuasive Prognosis, are blue 1 attacks that can be enabled, or that we can play Just a Nick on. Just a Nick is very powerful, +5, banish a top card from the top if you want that effect. And I think this is very powerful. I loved it in New, and I didn't like it so much in Marionette. In fact, I cut it quite quickly, as many did. But I think it has a really good home here in this deck. In fact, I feel there are a couple of plays that we did in New that come back in Slip Through the Cracks. Right. Yeah, so again, 12 blues, all of them are attacks. Some of them are just very high value cards. For example, Bonds of Agony. I think I don't need to talk much about Bonds of Agony's effect. It's, if that hits, it can be game winning. It probably takes the whole hand of the opponent, giving us full tempo. Because we give Go Again to the first stealth attack, we might be able to convert our next hand really well offensively and really jump on that train, making it through the rest of the game with momentum. It's not as easy to pull off as with New. The Sips help, Black Tech Whisperers. We have a couple of reactions. We can flick a dagger, obviously, to turn it on. We play Spike with Blood Rod. We could play Tarantula Toxin on top of it in case it only works if they block, right? And we have Razor's Edge as the reaction, as well as Just a Nick, which I mentioned earlier. So sometimes it blocks for 3. Sometimes we play it as the first chain link to just hold 3 cards, let the opponent choose whether we have it or not. We could sidestep and just play on, right? Take 2 cards to block and just move on. Bonds of Attraction, I have in the list, could be a different card, to be honest. The effect is relevant, the graveyard hate piece, right? It will banish a card from the graveyard if it hits. You can take the Fellings out of the graveyard from your opponent, so your Codex plays get better, right? You can take allies from there. You can take any other card, Sigil of Brilliance from Auxilio players. Sometimes they have a retrieve mechanic, right, to get these cards back. So there are a couple of targets in graveyards that are really good. In the mirror, you want to take the Leave No Witnesses away, or the one Command and Conquer to make their own Codex turns worse, right? So there are a couple of things. I haven't seen it as game winning or losing yet. Again, floor is a blue 3 block. Double Trouble. Similar thing, not a high priority card, you rarely attack with it. But if you do, and you manage to get 2 attack reactions on top of that, as I said already, just a Nick target. It's right there, it's number 1. Black Tech Whisperers. It gets the buff by itself by +2. So basically we convert the blue to a red. It's already on 3 power level, plus whatever else we put on top. So it's a little bit of damage in the blue slot. Sometimes can be relevant. And then Persuasive Prognosis, another card that shined in new, and I think also here really has a good home. Very threatening effect on it is amazing. If it hits, they banish the top card, same color. You can now look at the hand and take a card with the same color. Really, really powerful. And on top of that, it gains you life if you banish action cards. It's not to not to downplay that part. This is crazy good. Crazy good. If you bump this up with even just a Razor's Edge, we are on 4. 4 is hard to block. You need the direct. You need to insulate against this, right? We have Take Up the Mantle. Forgot to mention that earlier, but we get there as well. So it's kind of easy for this deck to capitalize on this card. And that's why it's an auto include 3 of. Alright, let's dive into the main deck reds. We play 3 Command & Conquer. Command & Conquer, still, I don't know, maybe I'm scarred. I see people cutting it also from other assassin decks. I like the card in the deck. It's a great Codex play. There's still, for my taste, a lots of D-Reacts floating around. Especially against Earth Heroes, I want to play as many Command & Conquers as I can. And cycle the one I have in graveyard with Codex as often as possible to just deny value from our opponent. The handful of D-Reacts can't do anything, or not much. That's why I still like the card. Yeah, overall, staple. I wish we could play more assassin cards, but it's the one generic card that is just too powerful to skip. In fact, it's a staple. It's nothing special. It's 0 for 3, like all stealth attacks. On hit, they get a Blood Rot, so it might get 5 value. That's really good. As faster as we can kill our opponent, the better. Just the Nick, already mentioned it. No discussions. We played 3 Just the Nick. This is the deck for it. Now that new is gone, we have all the blues in the world. This deck can arsenal Just the Nick, wait for the blue and pull it off. Oftentimes you just pull an organic combo in your hand, and that's just fun. It's amazing. It's so much value. It freaks the opponent out. They have to have it, or they overblock. You go next. You may arsenal it. It's a great card. Lots of damage potential. Super awesome. We can do some trickery with it later on as well when we talk about Take Up the Mantle or Codex. Let's move on. Kiss of Death, the newest edition from the Hunted. Really versatile card. In this deck, it's a 3 on hit, lose a life, go again. That's already a 0 for 4 go again, which is, yep, that's pretty awesome. If you then connect to the next chain link, you can flick the Kiss of Death. That's also 1 more damage, 1 more life loss, so you have a 0 for 6. Who's gonna say no to that? On top of that, you can do all kinds of shenanigans. We go through that a bit later. I'm just talking about, you can front buff it with Savor Bloodshed. In case someone is crazy, they block Kiss of Death, you Tarantula Toxin it, take the block value away, give it +3, bonkers, 0 for 6. So we have lots of applications there. The Spike with Blood Rot, just to say it once, you make a Blood Rot on hit. If you then flick the Kiss of Death, you still transport that Blood Rot on hit as well. So that's a really neat interaction as well to know about. Next card here, Leave No Witnesses, also non-negotiable 3 off. It's a very powerful 0 for 4, no go again, no stealth, so not so much synergy. It's an assassin card though. It threatens the arsenal, it banishes the card on top, sometimes makes you a silver, which can come in handy to convert a blue into maybe a better card or a better arsenal or whatnot. and it's a great one-card play. The better one-card play, and I will talk about it later, is Codex into Leave No Witnesses, but this is already a pretty decent one-card play. We do play the Orb Weaver Spinneret and Chelicera Dagger package. This is a front buff for a stealth attack, so +3. In case we have a slot free, we will equip a Chelicera, and that's something we really want to do. One Chelicera is really good to have on board, much as it is good to have it in Marionette. Other than that, floor is really good. It's blocks 3. It's a great card. Razor's Edge, Necessary Evil, I want to say. Nothing funky about this card. It's an assassin attack reaction, blocks for 3, buffs for 3. It doesn't buff the Chelicera, so be aware of that. It just buffs action cards. And yeah, but it's doing its thing. It's doing its thing. Sometimes you need to have these 2 or 3 reactions on a chain link to enable the inherent effect, and Razor's Edge is there. To save a bloodshed, we already did talk about it. Very powerful, 0 for 4 front pump for 0, threatening a card draw. This is great into Kiss of Death. This is great into Tunic, Graphene Chelicera, Flick, the Hunter's Clave. Surprise, you're marked now. Chelicera hits, I draw a card. Overall, again, blocks for 3. Nothing to scoff about here. Spike with Blood Rot. I see in not so many lists. I really like the card. Now that I play it, costs 1, which is not so lovely, but of course it's necessary because the effect is quite good. +3, and on hit create a Bloodpox token. Yeah, it's some, you know, we have stealth, we have attack reactions to go over the top. We have combo synergy here with Kiss of Death, and yeah, the one resource we can either grab the Tunic, or you will see later I have Redback Shroud also in the in our sideboard. This card really impressed me, to be honest. My Tunic counter is usually hanging around for a bit and then having the spike to use it for, and or you actually pitch the blue for a dagger. You have this one floating. It's really, really cool. Yeah. Last red is Tarantula Toxin. It's a versatile card. I think in Marionette, especially in the dagger build that I've been running, it has been the absolute, wow, my favorite card in the game. At that time, I feel like in this Arakni, it's not as powerful. It's still really good, and especially also in the late game, it really shines. It is flexible in terms of, hey, it's mostly it buffs +3 a dagger, or it shreds something -3 defense. Sometimes it does both, which is obviously very good. It's not as consistent as in Marionette, but it's still really worth it. So that's why we don't have to run shred in the main board, in my opinion. Okay, Codex of Frailty. Not much to talk about. I think one of the most powerful cards, one of the most tilting cards still for opponents. We have a couple of lines with it that we can rely on. I have them prepared for later, but overall, one of the things to keep in mind is we play Codex of Frailty, so you need to keep your arsenal free. Either put the Codex in arsenal itself, or put something there that it's not stuck, so to speak, right? We all know that play Assassin for a longer time. We all know we only ever do that once. We put a shred in arsenal and then the opponents just don't block anymore and the shred is kind of stuck. Don't do that. We want to play the Codex of Frailty if we can, and we need the arsenal free for that. So yeah. Take Up the Mantle is another piece. Really powerful card. When I first saw this card, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be the most busted thing ever. How do we deserve this? Yes, Assassin, go, go, go. But in Marionette, the hero I played much, much more before, I took the card out of my deck because it usually blocked for 3 and or pitched for 2, and I couldn't pull it off as much as I wanted to in that deck, because I also didn't play so much stealth anymore. I had mostly I relied on the dagger builds, and I'm so happy to finally play these cards, and I'm loving it. It's kind of relying on the mark, right, to get the full effect. Sometimes even the +2 is relevant, because we have so many on hits that are like destructive and relevant. If you bump a persuasive just by 1 over or by 2 over because they blocked wrong with the Tech Up the Mantle, it might be still worth it not getting the full effect. So this is the flaw for the card. It blocks 3, obviously it pitches yellow, all great. But if you pull this off, right, sometimes or usually this is one of the cards. I have 3 of the mantles, I only have 2 claves, so really need to make sure flick the clave in order to take up the mantle. The opponent has some agency here, right? They can play Shelter from the Storm or Calming Breeze to prevent, or what's the blue one called that Verdance is playing, to prevent the flick, and then you don't get the knife. So you need to be mindful about this. It's not easy to use this card, right? And then obviously it also depends on what you swap it out for, or what you copy the card for. Just keeping in mind, there's a couple of games here that you can play. So for example, you have a random card, let's say a red, in fact. You play that, and then you mantle it into a blue Persuasive Prognosis. Then you can still play Justinic on top of that. So that's kind of crazy, right? That you can use your Justinics with these kind of effects as well. The most common play, I think, is to just copy Bonds of Agony from graveyard. This is already one reaction, and yeah, maybe you have some more to actually enable it. I think that's the most common one. I took Kiss of Death just to push more damage through, even Infect, I think, in games. It really depends, really flexible card. But Bonds of Agony is certainly not the worst. It also depends on the matchup. Sometimes you want the Bonds of Attraction to just banish that freaking Felling of the Crown. Really liking this card. Yeah, and that concludes the main deck. What else do we have? Here's the inventory. So 26 cards. And as I said, we need to put 12 in order to have a 60 card playable deck. And please keep in mind, I also added some matchups. Don't know if you can see that there. But just a general guidelines, right? We have Sink Below and Shelter from the Storm. And sometimes we want to play 3 D-Rex, sometimes we want to play all 6. I usually prefer Sink. If I only play 3, I usually only play the Sinks. Shelter from the Storm are really good into Flick Knife decks, like we are, right? Reasons I just said. You can get some value forbidding the flick. Get a Syndra not to get the resources from their vest, for example. Into some decks like Dorinthia, we probably want to block or bring all of them in. I didn't play so many Dorinthias recently, but usually I bring my D-Reacts into the warrior, the Dawnblade warrior. We have a couple of utility stealth cards here as well. Art of Desire Body is really good into the red decks. That would be the Draconic Heroes, for example. Maybe in the mirror as well, we play 30 reds, right? That's a really a strong threat into decks that play a lot of go again cards, and where we can actually use the other cards. We have Infiltrate. I like the card, but please also understand that sometimes it's a mega whiff. If we banish a random card from Gravy Bones with that, we probably can't or don't want to play them. So I bring this in quite rarely. It's a mirror against Syndra. She has some go again cards, right? We bring that in. But that's why we also have only 2. It's not mission critical, I think. Mark of the Black Widow also usually goes in. It's kind of good into decks where we obviously want to disrupt the hand. Think about the dash IOs. We want to just take cards from the hand. Or again, the Syndra. We don't want them to have the full grip, right? And threaten that. We need to back it up. This is easy to block, right? And you need to have the opponent marked, which is not easy to do. Not super sure on flick to enable this one. Depends on game state. I don't want to say this is a no-brainer, but at least the threat is there, right? We have it in play, and the opponent needs to think about it. Unfortunately, unlike in Marionette, where we flick the clave, we don't get the +1 and actually go over. So that's why this card, for me, is not in the main deck, but it has performed quite well, and I like it much, much more in this deck, in this hero, rather than the Arakni Marionette. Yeah, pain in the backside we bring in when we want to have even more go again, even more damage. It's essentially, if it goes face and it doesn't, it gets the on-hit through, it's a 0/4 go again. It has a block too, that's why we don't play it in all the matchups. But this is really good into ally-based strategies. I think we play it against Gravy Bones. Overall, very versatile card. Sometimes here you can make a play where you attack with Kiss of Death, then you bring pain in the backside. You can choose the Kiss of Death to also hit the opponent, and then they lose a life for the on-hit. So that's another damage value that you can get out of there. Yeah. I have more head jabs. I have 2 pick up the point. Requires a bit more testing. I found if I flick aggressively, I'm out of claves eventually, and that's really bad. I don't like being out of claves. So here we have a retrieve. We can codex also the pick up the point to get the clave back in the late game, for example. That's a play I have done in the past, and I quite liked it. And on top of that, it's a 3 go again, right? So it's again good if we want to go wide, kill a ward board. Well, Enigma isn't here anymore, but maybe Prism or Gravy Bones to take some ally, or just to pressure the life total and convert our hands. And the last one from the deck cards is the Yellow Shred. Obviously bringing that in only against blocking decks. Because it's a yellow, I also would have brought it into Kano, just to have more pitch. Against Kano we have AB3. Yeah, probably doesn't matter so much, but against blocking decks, Shred, really, really good. But it's also just a 2-off. We have Redback Shroud. It's also more an experiment. I've seen this in other decks as well. It's a starts in play, stays in play, attack reaction, similar to Black Deck Whisperers. So, for example, I have it in my matchups here against Dash IO. I play it, it blocks for 1. It can enable a naked Bonds of Agony, having this loadout on board, Flick Knives, Redback Shroud, and the shoes. So Bonds of Agony comes for 4. Dash really doesn't want to block, and we could, disrupt them really well. It's an idea. I haven't played it much, but for now it's in my list. Similar, Snapdragon Scalers. Idea here being, and shout out to my local friend Daniel. The idea, he pitched me, hey, against slow decks, you can just play Leave No Witnesses, Codex, Leave No Witnesses, using Snapdragon Scalers to give Leave No Witnesses a go again. Looks like an anemic hand, like where you just want to push Arsenal, even though no, we actually go wide now. Sounds funny, sounds cute. Haven't tested it out so much, but Snapdragon Scalers, absolute great card, so nothing there. If you really want the go again, that's a good card, and I can see it against slow decks to just go wide and apply pressure. Yeah, and the rest is our AB equipment. We have the chest piece, we have the head piece, and we have the leg piece. So against Kano, we play all 3 of those. Against the other wizards, for example, Verdance, I'm currently playing AB1, and I play AB1 in the head slot because I value my shoes a bit higher. The chest is really important against Verdance as well. I played one without the tunic and only with this piece. I didn't like it at all. So Head it is for now. Auxilio, honestly, I don't know. Didn't play much into Auxilio. I could even see a game where they blast you from nothing in turn 3 or turn 2, and you couldn't do much about it. I guess they also play a lot of physical attacks. Generally speaking, maybe AB0 is fine. I have been playing AB1, AB2, but my Auxilio testing has been limited as well. If you look at the deck, we have a maybe board, a couple of cards I did consider, I did play with, I cut out ultimately. Don't want to go over that right now. I think this list is not really fancy. It's bread and butter. It's optimized for consistency, and it can block well, it can attack well, and I had a lot of fun with it, right? Justinic, take up the Mantle, Spike with Bloodrot, Kiss of Death. This is just so much fun, and I like it so much. Let's look at some advanced lines. If you're a newer player, you might not know these. I'm playing Assassins ever since they got released, so for me some of these lines are second nature by now, but just to have a resource out there that explains them, I want to show that next. I have prepared 3 lines that show great uses of Codex of Frailty and the most used by me in my games with Assassins in general. These usually transfer, I think the last one doesn't, but the first 2 transfer to any Assassin and is very well known. So here the prerequisite is you have a Command and Conquer in graveyard. Doesn't matter how it got there, could have played it, you could have discarded it, you could have blocked with it. It's just important to have a Command and Conquer in your graveyard. It's really even essential to get the first Command and Conquer in there if you want to pull off a line like this. And trust me, you will do this quite frequently. It's even a little bit telegraphed. By now, the player base knows this line. I'm pretty sure if you play against an opponent who has been around the block, they can see it coming. So you need the Tunic on 3 for this play. You have the Codex of Frailty either in arsenal or in hand, and you keep a blue next to it, right? You can block with the other cards, for example. What you do now is you pitch the blue to attack with one of your daggers, you float 1 resource, you then play Codex of Frailty, you don't have cards in hand, you don't need to discard, you get back your Command and Conquer, put it in arsenal, Tunic counter, attack with the Command and Conquer. If the opponent has a clean arsenal, they need to get an attack in there, discard a card. If they don't, they are fine, but still you threaten the Command and Conquer, which is a very, very good attack these days. Lots of D-reacts floating around. You can't D-react the Command and Conquer. This is a really, really powerful line. The next line is simpler. It's the 1-card hand. This one requires leave no witnesses in graveyard. Similar to Command and Conquer, maybe even more important, because I feel like this might be a line you play more often. And it is important to get the leave no witnesses into your graveyard. It doesn't have go again. It has to be your chain ender if you want to throw this, right? So what I found is most likely you're going to block with the first one, or you attacked with it. Might be as well, right? Doesn't matter, you just need it in there. And then what you do, you block with the rest of your hand, or you used it. Could also be, this line here could also be a chain ending line, absolutely fine. You just don't want another card to waste, to discard to Codex of Frailty, so you just play Codex of Frailty, get your leave no witnesses, that guy comes for 4, threatens the opponent's arsenal, they need 2 cards, could be an equipment, could be a card from hand or 2 cards from hand to protect their arsenal. That's I think one of the bread and butter plays, famously called the best 1-card hand in the game. The third line I want to share is something you can only pull off here in Slip Through the Cracks. And it's similar to the first one. We want to have a Command and Conquer play with our Codex. So again, you need the Command and Conquer in graveyard. The other requirement is you have graphene chelicera equipped. And then you don't need the tunic on 3, you just keep a blue and the Codex of Frailty. You pitch the blue for graphene chelicera. Graphene chelicera gets go again from our hero ability. You float 2, Codex, Command and Conquer. Very, very cool, clean line. I love it. When I saw this for the first time and I realized how graphene chelicera works in this deck, I was blown away. So that's the most prominent Codex lines. With Codex, though, you can get really creative. Sometimes even playing a Codex just to get the frailty for the opponent and the ponder is something that is relevant, that is good to do. Sometimes discarding, let's say, a Death Touch. We don't play Death Touch in this list, but if you do, discarding that, not so bad, you know. There are a couple of funky lines and you should have fun trying things out. These are just bread and butter plays that I found and they are really, really helpful. And yeah, if you can see these hands where you can pull these off, I think that's really powerful. Now I have prepared 2 lines I want to share with involving Kiss of Death, a very flexible card in our kit. So in this scenario, very simple scenario, just want to really bring this home. You attack with Kiss of Death. Kiss of Death is a stealth attack and it's a dagger. The opponent blocks with a card. You have Tarantula Toxin in hand. You slam it down. You remove 3 block value from that card because Kiss of Death is a stealth attack, but it also at the same time gives the +3 buff because it's a dagger. So that's a 6 value swing on this one card, which you need to really understand how this works. A similar effect you can achieve with Graphene Chelicera, which is also stealth and a dagger, and Tarantula Toxin really shines on these cards. This doesn't do so much. It's a good value play, right? But the next line shows you the power and flexibility of Kiss of Death a little bit more. So here we attack with, again, with Kiss of Death. We play Spike with Bloodrot on top of it. And Spike with Bloodrot says that an attack with stealth gets +3 and it gets additional text. When this hits a hero, create a Bloodrot Pox token under their control. And what that means is, first of all, on the surface, Kiss of Death now comes for 3 and has 2 on hits. Lose a life and the opponent makes a Bloodrot Pox token. If I then continue my combat chain with anything else, and I use Flick Knives to flick the Kiss of Death, the on-hit that is written on the card, lose a life, triggers, but also the one we gave it through, Spike with Bloodrot, it triggers as well. So they get a second Bloodrot. And all of a sudden, this 2-card play plus the X, right, the other card to continue the combat chain, is 9 damage and 2 Bloodrot Pox tokens. This is really, really powerful. Next up, I have 2 lines prepared to show you the power of Take Up the Mantle and the unpredictability of that card and the fun you can have with it. So, Take Up the Mantle shines when the opponent is marked, and for this first example, I assume the opponent is already marked. We attack with Bonds of Attraction. In reactions, we can play Just a Nick on it. Remember how I said all of the blue cards we play are Just a Nick targets? That's exactly why. This happens more frequently with this deck construction. Anyways, after we resolve Just a Nick, we take up the Mantle and we copy Kiss of Death. The card now becomes a copy of Kiss of Death, but it retains all the buffs Bonds of Attraction had before. Basically, it's keeping the Just a Nick, right? So from this interaction, we now deal 11 to 12 damage, which is really hard to predict, most likely not being blocked, so our on-hits trigger, and it's a really, really powerful way of pushing our on-hits through. And in this particular case, we're basically attacking with a 1 attack, and in the end, it comes out as 11 or 12 damage. Let's say the opponent is already at 6, they underblock, they might die, right? The next line is a bit more complicated, so I hope you can follow along. And here, just to illustrate, we assume the opponent isn't marked, right? We attack with a random stealth attack, let's say red infect. In reactions, we flick a clave to mark the opponent, dealing 1 damage, marking the opponent, then take up the Mantle is life. Now we mantle the infect, give it +3. We mantle into a Bonds of Agony, so we make it a copy of a blue card, which has a weaker attack than before, so we get a -3, but we turn on the bonds later on, so we get the intrinsic +3 again. And now, since we made the red stealth attack a copy of Bonds of Agony, we can play just a nick from hand or from arsenal, right? And it will see that it's a base 1 power. So this interaction here results into 13 damage, and it has the 3 reactions of Bonds of Agony. It's a really, really powerful play. And I hope you can find also some lines with Take Up the Mantle and have a lot of fun with this card. I think there are many, many different lines available that you need to see. It's hard for us as the player of the deck even to see the lines correctly. So it's also really hard to see for your opponent what's really coming next. And that's part of the chaotic nature of this deck and the unpredictability and the surprise element of going really tall really quickly, especially in endgame scenarios. It's really, really hard to block us. Thanks for watching. It has been really fun making this video, and if you have any feedback, any comments, please let me know. I'd like to improve. I like to get better at this. And I hope, of all things, I hope you learned something, and I hope this video was helpful to you. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. See you next time.